Hello everyone and welcome to the Gaming News Roundup. As always, my name is Amata and I'm going to bring you all the latest in gaming as of the 26th of June 2012. Any Skyrim fans will know that the Dawnguard DLC is now available for those lucky Xbox users, but for those of you who have yet to play it for whatever reason, maybe you're curious as to what perks and weapons and things like that they add. Well, we've got some details here for you on that front. Now, as you know, you have the option between choosing the vampires or the Dawnguard, and joining the vampire has some decent perks like becoming a flying vampire lord, which functions much like being a werewolf and will get you a power called vampiric grip that was actually shown in the original teaser trailer, where you suspend an enemy in the air while sucking their health out. You can obviously also turn into a cloud of bats, because you can't really be a vampire unless you can turn into a cloud of bats. And joining the Dawnguard will net you a few new weapons, including the crossbow. They're primed to fire and stagger targets, but the only thing is, they take much longer than the standard bow to reload. I also have a full list here of the vampiric abilities, so if you're not interested in this particular thing, skip forward about a minute or so, but if you're interested, then just listen up. There's Power of the Grave, 50 points bonus to health, stamina and magicka as a vampire lord. Detect all creatures, and you have to have Power of the Grave to unlock that ability. Mist form, turn yourself into a invulnerable cloud of mist while regenerating health, magic and stamina, and you need Detect all creatures to have that ability available to you. Supernatural reflexes, you move quicker and enemies will move slower, and you need the mist form to have that. So obviously if you have all of those, that's pretty awesome, and that's only one arm of this talent tree that you've got for the Vampire Lord. Excuse me. Blood healing, killing a person with a power attack bite restores all of your health, which is pretty damn awesome, and you need to have Power of the Grave in order to unlock that. Unearthly Will, night powers and blood magic cost 33% less, and you also need Power of the Grave for that as well. Poison Talons, melee attacks deal 20 points of poison damage, and you need Unearthly Will or blood healing to unlock this. Night Cloak, Shroud of Bats feed on enemies within melee range, and you need Poison Talons to have that. And as I said, Vampiric Grip, can pull a creature to you from a distance and do choking damage once it's close, and you need Power of the Grave to have that. Summon Gargoyle, summons a gargoyle obviously, and you need the Vampiric Grip ability to have access to it. Corpse Curse, paralyze your foes with this magical blast, and you need Summon Gargoyle to have access to that. So, some pretty awesome abilities actually, as I'm sure you would agree. I like the sound of the first, I think it was 5 ones. Power of the Grave, Detect all creatures misform, and Supernatural Reflexes sound like a pretty awesome combination actually. It sounds like they've finally made vampires as cool as they should be with this particular DLC, because anyone who's played any previous Elder Scrolls game will know that vampires have always been a little bit lacking in that regard. And for anyone that is interested, I have a full list here of the perks that have been added to being a lovely werewolf. You have Bestial Strength, do 25% more damage as a werewolf. Totem of Terror, Werewolf Howl of Terror affects even higher level creatures, that's pretty awesome. Totem of the Moon, summon an ally werewolf with a howl, which is pretty awesome. Animal Vigour, 100 points bonus to health and stamina while in your beast form. And Gorging, feeding heals twice as much health. So yeah, some kind of cool abilities there added for the werewolves, which is kind of nice. I actually went with a werewolf on my original playthrough of Skyrim, but when I actually get round to playing this DLC, I will probably be a vampire lord, as the vampires sound much more awesome now. The only reason I didn't go with vampires to begin with is because they seemed, well, kind of pants. So I'm very pleased with the abilities they've added, and the Dawnguard crossbow thing actually sounds pretty cool as well. I wouldn't mind giving the DLC a couple of playthroughs as, each side of the conflict. That would be quite interesting, I think. Anyone who lives in Europe and has a PS3 will have to wait a while for the Mass Effect 3 Extended Cut DLC, apparently. It will basically not be arriving there until July 4th, the developer, of course, BioWare, has said. Now the Xbox 360 and PC users will receive it on Tuesday, June 26th, which is of course today. That is a full week before it will arrive on PS3 in the EU. Now there's not any known reason yet for why it's being delayed in the EU. North American PC owners will not actually be hit by the delay. I'm sure they have their reasons for doing this, but it does seem a bit odd that there's no reason given as to why EU PS3 owners are basically being punished for living in a different country. I mean, obviously that's not the way BioWare are intending it, but that's how people are going to feel, that just because they happen to live in the EU and will be playing the game on a PS3, they have to wait an entire week, basically. After everyone's already played it, that's only then will they get to see the new content, which would annoy me to say the least. I mean, I haven't yet got around to playing Mass Effect, so it doesn't really affect me either way, but I know that it would annoy me to quite a big degree to have to wait just because. So hopefully we'll get some clarification as to why this is. I'm sure they have a good reason. They wouldn't do this without a good reason, because obviously they got to know that this is going to annoy quite a lot of people, especially considering the big massive disaster area that was the Mass Effect 3 ending and the backlash that came from it. So hopefully they'll speak up soon as to why they've done this and calm a few people down, because I don't doubt that some people are going to be very annoyed at this, and quite rightly so, to be honest. And finally, for anyone who's wondering why Square Enix hasn't released a Final Fantasy VII remake, well, some clarification has actually been given as to why they haven't done this. Basically, the CEO has said that Square Enix will not remake Final Fantasy VII until it makes a game better than that game. Basically, he's admitted that the main sequels and spin-offs from Final Fantasy VII have not been as good or as successful as the original game, of course. And he went on to say that the development team will be more than happy to remake Final Fantasy VII, but doing so would likely put an end to the franchise. I guess because, Final Fantasy VII is, in a lot of people's eyes, the best Final Fantasy game made as to date, and if they remake it, well, what's the point, because they can't make anything better than that, right? But I don't know if I would personally look at it that way as a fan. I think a lot of people would just be happy to have the remake. That's not going to stop them from playing any future Final Fantasy titles, especially with the impressive tech demo that they showed at E3. So it's an interesting point of view that he has here. I can kind of see where he's coming from, in that, there is a lot to live up to with Final Fantasy VII, and that, until they make a game better than it, should they really remake it and shoot themselves in the foot and basically set the bar way, way too high for them to get over, and basically have them forever compared to that particular remake. So I think that's his concern there, and I guess it's kind of understandable thinking about it. So yeah, some little bit of clarification there for any Final Fantasy fans out there. I'm sure a lot of us have just been like, why remake it? You basically just print money. But it's a fairly good justification, actually. And it completely doesn't even touch on the whole fact that, remaking it would be a gargantuan task in itself, because that game, that particular remake, would be held to such high standards, and it would be expected to, basically not touch the original or add very little. Otherwise, if they change the wrong thing, there'll be an uproar. So yes, I can kind of understand why they've not done it until now, but on the same token, I still want them to remake it. Anyway guys, that's it for this particular news roundup. I hope you've enjoyed this particular video. Feel free to check out the rest of our channel. We've got some interesting content on there at the moment. Just yesterday I uploaded the first of 3 planned videos for Phantasy Star Online 2, the open beta of course. And I finally got around to uploading the highlights montage for the London MCM Expo, which we attended in May. So yeah, feel free to do that, or don't, it's entirely up to you, but give us a like if you're feeling nice. I would appreciate it. Alright guys, thank you for watching, see you again next time.